I don't recall the Mice's Curse containing a passage about Link being fated to always be a banging musician, but for some reason, almost every incarnation of the character keeps being drawn to the world of music. From the very first title to the rhythm game crossover, there have been more than enough musical instruments introduced throughout the Zelda series to fill up an entire orchestra, and today I'm gonna walk through the pit and point out every single instrument to be found there. We're not gonna do things chronologically, but I do want to start with the original Legend of Zelda on NES. This game featured a recorder, a perfect instrument to start with, found in the 5th dungeon of the game. The effect of playing is quite varied, ranging from transporting you to other dungeons to even damaging the boss Dig Dogger. Another instrument, called the flute, would appear in possession of the aptly titled Flute Boy in A Link to the Past, and its spiritual successor A Link Between Worlds. Now, this flute does remind me a ton of a different, more iconic instrument altogether, but we'll get to that one later. The actual flute would also make a bizarre reappearance as a weapon in Hyrule Warriors, now called the 8-bit recorder, with a sprite-based design similar to its appearance in the original Zelda on NES. While it is of course a flute, its weapon type is a baton, exclusively to be used by Princess Zelda in the game. It's not a default baton, however. That is of course the Wind Waker. It's not technically an instrument, I guess, but it's vital for running a successful orchestra, and since that's the theme we're going with, I'm counting it. According to Eiji Aonuma, director of the series, the item was also originally a theremin, which is an electronic musical instrument. Anyway, as the name suggests, this item of course hails from the Wind Waker, where Link can use it for a variety of effects. That includes, but is not limited to, changing the wind direction and the time of day, as well as commanding other people and objects and gaining access to locked temples. The game also contains 2 other, actual instruments, although they never end up in Link's little toon hands. The first is Makar's violin, used to perform in the annual Korok festival. Oh, and to become a sage or restore the Master Sword's power, blah 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 blah. More importantly, since Makar is a tiny little Korok, he plays his violin as if it was a cello, which is just the cutest design ever. The other race newly introduced in this game, the Rito, also get their own instrument to make up for lost time, being the Rito Harp, found in the possession of Medley. It has essentially the same function as Makar's violin, with the added bonus of reflecting light, making it effectively a second mirror shield. This is not the first or the last harp to be found in the series, although I guess timeline-wise it actually might be, it's hard to say. Either way, in our world's time it was preceded by the Harp of Ages from the Oracle game of the same name. It originally belonged to Nehru, but eventually ends up in Link's hands. It allows him to travel through time. It's quite similar actually to the Goddess's Harp, which originates from Ocarina of Time but has a much larger role as Skyward Sword. It's a legendary instrument passed down from generation to generation by the royal family. As such, it is Zelda's possession, but in both games we most often see respectively the mysterious Sheik and Link play on it. Now, Sheik is quite good, hardly distinguishable from Zelda's great playing, but Link has definitely sounded better on other instruments. But at least he apparently played well enough to have his songs reveal the gates necessary to advance his adventure. And since Ocarina of Time has been mentioned, I guess we might as well get the Legend of Zelda's most iconic instrument out of the way. The Bone Ocarina, which appeared in freshly picked Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land. After beating the pirate hideaway, Tingle can use this item to summon the pirates, who will sail him around. Another ocarina appears in the Minish Cap, being the Ocarina of Wind. It actually functions relatively similar to the Bone Ocarina, allowing Link to travel between the wind crests scattered around Hyrule. Instead of pirates, Link calls on the help of the bird Zephyr though. To prevent false advertising, not 1 but 2 ocarinas were added in Ocarina of Time, the first being the Fairy Ocarina. This is given to Link by Saria when he first leaves Kokiri Forest as a child, but as a musician grows, they upgrade to better gear, and so does Link. He upgrades to the titular Ocarina of Time, which I'm just gonna assume you're already familiar with, so let's keep it short and just say it allows for time travel, warping, changing the time of day, calling rainstorms, contacting Saria and calling Epona to your location. That last one is also the effect of the grass whistle from Twilight Princess, which I guess you can argue about whether it's an instrument or not, but nah, I guess you can use it to produce music, so it qualifies. It comes in 2 variants, the horse grass for calling Epona and the hawk grass for calling hawks. Later in the game, Link receives a horse call, a literal whistle, which is again right on the fence between being an instrument or not. I don't know, it feels like less of an instrument to me, but I guess they both play Epona's song, so I suppose it's either both or none. Anyway, on to another fairly debatable musical instrument, being the bell that appears in A Link Between Worlds. I know bells are used as percussion instruments, but Link really just rings it a little. I don't know if this qualifies as making music. That said, the effect is quite similar to other instruments we've seen, as it allows him to travel to weather vanes he has visited earlier in his journey. Just like the aforementioned recorder, bells also appear as a weapon type in Hyrule Warriors, this time exclusively by Marin. As such, it is not a reference to A Link Between Worlds whatsoever, but instead the Sea Lily's Bell, which is one of the 8 instruments of the Sirens featured prominently in Link's Awakening. They are essentially the must-have collectibles of the game, found at the end of dungeons, and if they're all present, Link can awaken the Windfish, as is the ultimate goal of the game. Aside from Sea Lily's Bell, there's also the Full Moon Cello, Conch Horn, Surf Harp, Wind Marimba, Coral Triangle, Organ of Evening Calm, and Thunder Drum. Yeah, just off Link's Awakening alone we're already halfway the full orchestra. Another instrument that fits right into this group, but is actually from Oracle of Ages, is the Sea Ukulele. It's a part of the trading quest, so nothing significant really, but when I say every, I mean it. This game also features a set of flutes we've yet to cover. All first appear as strange flutes, but can later be used to summon one of the animal companions. You've got Ricky the kangaroo, Dimitri the dodongo, and Moosh, the flying blue bear of dreams. Love these guys, I hope we one day get to see him again. I also always really like that you can only have one. It's the kind of thing that makes a playthrough feel unique, which can be tricky for games as linear as Zelda can be. Another flute still on the list is the Spirit Flute, the central instrument of Spirit Tracks. Unlike previous flutes, this is a pan flute, used by Link to play duets with members of the Lokomo tribe. These folks also use their own instruments, respectively Gage on cello, Steam on biwa, which is a Chinese lute, Carbon on flute, Ambrose on timpani, which are large drums, and Rael on oboe, which is a large woodwind instrument. During the final battle of the game, the band comes together one last time to reveal Meliodas' weak spot. Next up is the one-man band that is Link in Majora's Mask. You've got the Deku Pipes, a bunch of tubas glued together used alongside the Deku Mask, the Goron drums, 5 djembe drums which are ironically enough used to play a lullaby, and the Zora guitar with a badass design based on fish bones. In fact, almost every other Zora instrument we see in the game, courtesy of the Indogogos, has a banging design. You've got a similar bony piano, a crustacean bass guitar, and a set of drums made of live fish. Majora's Mask also features a music box the size of a house, which I'm not sure counts as an instrument or a residence, but I guess it couldn't hurt to mention. For a boatload of even more instruments, we have to look at, fittingly, the rhythm-based adventure game that is Cadence of Hyrule. For example, we've got the bass guitar, oboe, maracas, and glockenspiel that are required to open the gate for Hyrule Castle. The obligatory warp instrument of the game is a lute, while the main villain Octavo uses a golden variant as his only weapon. The bongos and the synth are required to beat the final dungeon of the game, with the latter being easily the most modern instrument featured in the entire Zelda series. Synths didn't become widespread and popular in music until the 1960s, meaning they're only a few decades older as the first game in the series. While musical instruments have been a core element of The Legend of Zelda's identity ever since that original title, the last 2 games have definitely decreased the focus on them. Both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom don't put an instrument in Link's hands, but do feature some fun side characters who can carry a tune. Hestu comes equipped with 2 maracas, at least after Link gets them back from a group of bokoblin thieves. The maracas are loaded with Korok seeds, which is exactly why Link has to find the little buggers all over Hyrule. They also appear as a weapon in Age of Calamity as Hestu's basic weapon. Cass is another one of Breath of the Wild's most beloved characters, and a huge part of that is because of what the man can do with an accordion. He plays a wide array of different songs over the course of the game, even more with the Champions Ballad DLC included, but unfortunately doesn't return for Tears of the Kingdom. That game does however introduce us to the Stable Trotters, a group of 5 performers with the musical names of Mastro, Violin, Piper, Beats, and Eustace. They are respectively the conductor, violin, flute, drums, and horn players of the troupe that Link must reunite in order for them to perform at the many stables of the game. And that makes it about time for my curtain call. Which instrument is your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Zelda content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.